From its super successful first season to fans being curious about Charlotte, Agatha, and Violet's future, let's talk about if there will be a Queen Charlotte Season 2 at all. There's no denying that Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, is a win for both Netflix and Shondaland. But did you guys know that the show topped the list on Nielsen's streaming charts from May 1st to 7? See, the show came out on May 4th and saw a crazy 1.9 billion viewing minutes in its first few days. Up until June, it racked up 432 million hours in views and went up 13% in viewership week over week. Those are the kind of crazy numbers that make networks order second seasons for shows. But the fact is, Queen Charlotte was always a limited series. It was only created to tell the backstory of a single Bridgerton character, whose life Shonda Rhimes thought was worth making a spin-off for. And now that the story has been told, there's nothing else about the Queen that can be added to a second season. So there's very little chance that the show will return. After all, the Queen was a major character in the first season of the show, but there was always a mystery around her and the King's love story. That turned a very white England into a mixed monarchy. But now that the truth's out about how Charlotte became the Queen and what her and George's relationship was like, there's no reason to continue the show just for numbers. Instead, Shonda may create another miniseries for another character instead, like Violet Bridgerton, whose story Rhimes is very interested in telling, saying that she's a character who's always piqued her interest. She spoke about this in detail, declaring her fascination by how Violet was portrayed in the show. Seeing the curiosity and fun nature of the character, she added that if there's any story she'd create another spin-off for, it'd be about how Violet grows up, meets Edmund, and becomes Lady Bridgerton. Now, just like Queen Charlotte, Julia Quinn's books don't tell Violet's story in detail either. But in the Bridgerton prequel books, Julia dives into the lives of the Rockesbys, who are neighbors of Lord and Lady Ledger. In those books, she tells bits and pieces about how Violet meets Edmund and how they fall in love as they're courting each other. Now, this isn't enough for Shonda to write a whole show about, but this lady can spin plots out of thin air. So that's not what fans are really worried about. What they're worried about instead are the other characters they'd like a spotlight on, like Lady Agatha Danbury, who has been a popular character even in the Bridgerton show. But after getting to know her backstory and seeing the amazing performance by Arsema Thomas, they're even more interested in seeing how Agatha becomes the powerful woman she's shown to be in the show. That's gotta be an interesting journey because, for one, there's nothing boring about Lady Danbury at all. In fact, she might be one of the show's most popular matchmakers, so fans need to know her story and how the Ton started to fear her. On top of that, Shonda's comments about Lady Agatha were like fuel to the fire when she said that the character is very snappy and sarcastic and was a complete riot to write in the book. Knowing that, fans got even more invested in finding out what kind of schemes Agatha pulls to make sure her title stays with her, even if her sons are older. Plus, we just can't forget how confident she is. When she discovers the beauty of love when she met Lord Ledger, we all saw her growing out of her shell after Lord Danbury dies, becoming happier alone than she was with her husband. Of course, there were also the walks and her relationship with Lord Ledger, but even though it's over, fans want to see if she finds more partners and gets lovey-dovey with other men from the Ton. You have to agree, she'll be a very interesting character to cover. But even though there are a lot of other stories to tell, fans still don't want to let go of the Queen. So everyone really wants a Queen Charlotte Part 2 and keep asking if there's any chance it'll happen. People are saying they loved this show more than Bridgerton, which is huge because her character doesn't even exist in the books. So it's a completely new addition to the story thanks to Shonda herself. Fans say that gives her creative liberty to add to Charlotte's story and cover more grounds on how she and the King continued with their lives as a royal couple. Despite George's illness, they also have a lot of other questions that a second season could answer, like what happened to Reynolds, and how George and Charlotte grow their families aside from the obvious way, of course, as well as what exactly happens to Lord Bute. Now, I know these questions are all valid, but I also have to agree with the show's other bunch of fans who don't want a second season. They're saying that this was a one-and-done deal, and there's no need for Shonda to stretch the story just because people are asking for it. I mean, that's always been a bad idea and never works for for the show, especially ones like this that have told its past story, especially when everything else it needs to cover can easily be done in future Bridgerton seasons. Instead, she could focus on other characters like Violet or Agatha, who actually do have a story to tell, instead of trying to make Queen Charlotte a Netflix regular. And either way, if fans want more of the royal couple, they always have the Queen Charlotte book to read. The book is called Queen Charlotte: Before Bridgerton Came an Epic Love Story, which is co-written by Shonda and Julia, who've added many more details to it than we saw on the show, and considering the kind of reaction we've seen to the show, fans can give anything to know more about the Queen and George's relationship. So the book is a great reading recommendation for them. A lot of readers have even said that the book fills a lot of gaps that the show skipped over, like how the couple settled on the even odd day schedule, what Agatha's inner thoughts are really like, and more details about Brimsley and Reynolds' love story. So even though a second season has a very low chance of happening, at least we have the book to get their unfiltered love story. In the meantime, we have Bridgerton's future seasons to look forward to. Now, I know fans have claimed Queen Charlotte is a better story than the main show, but despite that, they can't wait to see what the main series has in store for them, especially in the next season. Now that the first looks of the new season have been revealed, everyone is excited to see how Penelope and Colin's story goes, and what Anthony and Kate are up to after getting married. I've gotta say, both Colin and Penelope have gone through massive glow-ups for this season, which has made fans very excited to see the story they have in store for us. On top of that, there's the whole Whistledown angle. That's gonna be a major plot this season, because after all, Lady Whistledown is about to marry the love of her life. Aside from the fact that that's gonna cause a lot of drama, fans are also excited to see the Queen's reaction to the reveal because she's been the most invested in seeing who the real Whistledown is. There's no denying that the main show has got a lot of ground to cover, and so even if we don't get a Queen Charlotte Season 2, Shonda will still have her hands full with stories to entertain us. Plus, let's not forget, Bridgerton's future seasons are still gonna show Charlotte, Violet, and Agatha's futures that have been set up by the miniseries, like how Violet finds another partner after accepting her loneliness and desires someone she can love. Fans are also waiting to see what the Queen's life's gonna be like, and how her character will change now that her story has been told. Will the show add more details about her personal life, or will they even show her kids at all, now that they're about to bring a royal heir to the world? Talking about all this, fans have said that the differences between both shows are very clear. Bridgerton is more hyped and fast-paced, with a lot of scandal, glam, and shock factor in it. On the other hand, Queen Charlotte: A Bridgerton Story is slower and more realistic. And now that both shows are out in the open, it'll be interesting to see how Shonda takes the universe forward by mixing elements from both of them in Bridgerton and any other miniseries she's gonna create afterwards. So, from fan being curious about Charlotte, Agatha, and Violet's future to its super successful first season, that was all there is to know about whether there'll be a Queen Charlotte Season 2.